Hello there, everybody. Okay, this is going to be what I believe to be a very interesting video. I've told you many times that I am an angelic being, but all you'll see is just a body, like everybody else. Well, that's where the game is played. I come here to do two main things. One, let's go back to the very beginning. And I do mean the very beginning. Let's talk about the Creator, Source, what I call, or who I call the Father. So I began thinking about it more. Yeah, I was thinking about it. And I went way in, and I went back to it before everything was created. And I got the feeling of what it was about. And it was, let's say he was there, or it was there, or she was there, nothing else. Now, Creator knew he was all powerful, but he didn't know what it felt like. He didn't know what it meant in practice to be powerful. He didn't know what it felt like to be hot. He didn't know what it felt like to be cold. He didn't know what light was, even though it was light, he was light. So he decided to experience other things. In other words, it was lonely, okay? Let me put it that way. It was lonely. Just there. So it wanted to change that. He wasn't experiencing anything. He didn't know what everything was, even though he knew he created it, but he couldn't experience it. So what he decided to do, he decided he wanted to experience, so he created dimensions. We call them dimensions, I call them levels or floors. And he allowed himself to, let's say, shed part of itself. Okay? It would be so far, so it's sent part of itself out. But first he created the Holy Spirit. So it knew that it couldn't interface with his creations, his living beings, in other words. So he created the Holy Spirit. Now, the Holy Spirit and the Creator are one. But let's say the Holy Spirit is able to move around a little bit and more or less do things, and let's say it has a more interactive part in dealing with living creations, with living beings that have been created. But first he had created the angels, as I said in the last, or the second last video, I'm not too sure which, that angels are not physical beings. We are a consciousness. Okay? Now, we have the same issue as the Creator. Since we don't have bodies, we can't experience what it feels like to be hot. We can't experience what it feels like to be cold, to be happy, to be sad, and everything that goes with being a being. So we're the same issue as the Creator. Angelics are in the same situation, that they can't feel either. We can't feel. We can't feel love. Same as the Creator can't feel love because there's nothing to compare to. In other words, all the creator is light. So let's say it created the dark. Oh, this is light, this is dark. But unfortunately, down here in 3D, this is the third dimension, things have gotten a little bit out of hand. So he more or less has set a time clock, a reset, whereas the reset will happen every so often. It didn't know time, in other words, as well. It didn't know anything about time. So he wanted to know all of that. How do I know things have passed? I know things have passed. I need to know what it's like to experience time. So did us. So did we. We wanted to experience time. We wanted to experience what it's like to interact with other people. We've been physical beings. So, hence me. I know it's very, very hard to take. But I said many a time, you can imagine the way I felt when I started to really get in the realization, hang on a minute, what's this Gabriel thing about? What's this Gabriel? That was many years ago. And I went through lots and I went through, I don't want to use the word hell, but let's say the equivalent. How could I be? How could I be Gabriel? It's all part of the game. I had a body. I came in as a body to experience what people were experiencing. Beings were experiencing. You know what it's like to be hot. You know what it's like to be cold. We did not. Okay. We didn't. Although I did have other incarnations, which I will talk about, which I've never spoken about before. I did once, a few years ago, the very first video I ever did, I touched on it. And funnily enough, in the Law of One, they spoke about it. They spoke about this being, and they were speaking about me. You know, I was always hooked on the Law of One. No, when I was first introduced to the Law of One, courtesy of David Wilcock, although he's gone he'd gone a bit far away off into the distance. And immediately I looked at it, I was taken with it. I couldn't get enough of it. I just wanted more and more and more and more and more, even though I found it extremely difficult to read. I was hooked on it. And I'll explain where that came from. I did a past life regression a number of years ago. And in one of my lives that came up was a long, long time ago, and it was in Egypt. And that being was, or I was, Akhenaten. I said that in my very, very first video. And I know that Mark Atwood, whose video I was doing, or who was interviewing me, kind of raises, who? I said, Akhenaten. Who the hell was Akhenaten? So when I was doing the past life regression, I was asked to describe the body, all right, and what it was like. I said I was very tall, really much taller than the beings, than the locals, way, way taller. I was looking down on them. And I said, did the The body that I had was not a human body. It didn't come from the earth. In other words, it came down from up there. So that body was generated up there. And I said that. And I told him how I died, how I was murdered, really. I was poisoned after I introduced the one God. Now, in the Law of One, Ra spoke about Akhenaten, and he wanted to introduce the one God. In other words, he sent out a calling, maybe consciously or unconsciously, and Ra answered it because they heard the calling and they came in. And they came across Akhenaten. Now, Akhenaten had come from above. I came from above. And I started to introduce what later became the Law of One, but I was the first to practice it. I was a king, I was a pharaoh, and that was the law I created. No more gods, just one. Of course, the priests, being priests and all that, got their nose out of joint because they were suddenly out of the picture and they didn't want that. So they decided to knock me off. But here's the thing. Is it 12 months now? Maybe not quite that. They came across Akhenaten's body and they were examining it and they discovered that the body didn't come from here. And he was very, very tall. And he had been poisoned, as I had described in the my QHHT session, that he had been poisoned. The scientists had said, whoever he was, and well, they knew who he was, and they said he had been poisoned, but he was huge. He was very, very tall. The statues of Akhenaten that you'll see in Egypt, he's massive. But that apparently was accepted by the people at the time. In other words, he didn't stand out too much, even though he was fairly tall. I'd say he must have been, 12, 15 feet tall. But I had described him down to a T, and lo and behold, the scientists just quite recently confirmed it. But the Law of One, Ra said that Akhenaten received the first call. He was the first call, and he was the person to introduce the Law of One. And that is where, as soon as I saw the Law of One again, I reconnected with it. So there's a bit of information. In another life, further on in the regression, I turned up his tooth. And I was having a chat with him. He apparently I was taught. Is that where the word thought came from, I wonder? Or you think, or thought. I turned up his thought, not nothing. And these were the only two, as far as I'm aware, in the Law of One. They said this being was ill-experienced. He was, in other words, he was his experiences were very, very limited, so he didn't have the experience of or having lived multiple lives to build on. So he was raw at the job. He knew at the job. He was just in. So even though I did have an experience as Thoth, or an incarnation as Thoth. So there you go. What you're looking at is a body just like you, but that's changing. I can feel the energy's changing big time. I am being affected by it now. It's so strong. I did say that when the sun sends out CMEs, it affects you, affects everybody. And you may start to notice it. I also said that something was going to come from behind the sun or go to behind the sun and affect the sun and cause it to flash or send out a big CME. 2 days ago, the sun flashed full, almost full circumference. Was that it? Don't know. Or there's the big one yet to come. But the sun is giving out enormous CMEs. And it is affecting people. It's affecting you, whether you realize it or not. Yeah. So that Thoth, Anakh-Nathan, the Law of One, which you should read, by the way, if you haven't already done so. It is heavy, I'll admit. It is heavy going. But if you stick with it, you'll eventually kind of get the handle of what they're talking about. Another one of my favorite books, which is as equally heavy to read, is A Course in Miracles. Another book that I would just pop into my head, I would recommend that you read is Diary of a Yogi from Paramahansa Yogananda. He's Indian. He was an Indian. He died, when did he die? In the 50s or something like that, 1950s, almost the 60s, I'm not too sure. So he's got a fascinating life. And I would recommend you read his book, Diary of a Yogi. You will learn a lot. You will learn a lot from him. He was some fascinating individual, very, very spiritual. He was Indian, but his teachings would just blow your mind. So if you haven't read it, go get it if it's still available. So these are the 3 books: Diary of a Yogi, what's the other one? The Law of One. Do you know what? I can't remember what the 3rd book. That's old age for you. When is it? It'll come to me in a minute. Sorry about that, folks. But I did mention it. So there you go. I kind of wandered off the point that's going back to the creation. The Creator sent out, let's say, pieces of itself. Okay? Sent out pieces of itself. And that's you. You're one of those little pieces. You're one of those little stars. That's you. You are part of the Creator. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You and the Creator are the same. Which brings me to a point that someone, there was in a chat, I won't mention her name, and she says, get down on your knees and pray. Oh, crikey. Even though I had touched on it some years back in a few other videos. Never get on your knees. Never, 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 never get on your knees. Who are you getting on your knees to? Yahweh? Because that's where they have you. Down on your knees. Get up off your knees. I told you who you are. I just explained who you are. The part of the Creator. Who's the Creator? How are you getting you down on the knees to yourself for? Stand up. Don't beg. Do not beg or plead. You're the boss. Start to realize that you are the Creator in action. That's a good word. The Creator in action. They, the dark side, always knew that. And they didn't want you to realize that, how, what you are, what you can do, that you're actually part of the Creator. What the Creator can do, you can do. Jesus told you that in his teachings. No. So that was the reason I'm here, especially at this time when things are going to come to a stop. Came in again to experience this. This is why I'm here. I'm experiencing it on behalf of the angelics. What I feel, they feel. Okay? Because we're a consciousness. We don't have a body. We're just a consciousness. I'm the Gabriel consciousness. There's a Michael consciousness. But they're not separated, or they're not different. It's just that it's very hard to explain, but there is a Michael consciousness. There is Gabriel, and there is Uriel, and all the other names. They're all part of the one consciousness. I'm down here from the consciousness. I dropped through. Here I am to experience it. While I'm experiencing their feeling, I'm experiencing it on their behalf and on the Creator's behalf. You're doing the same. What you're experiencing on behalf of the Creator. You're not separated, despite what other people may tell you. Get up off your bloody knees. Who are you getting down on your knees to? At nothing? No, not like nothing. Yahweh. That's who we have you on your knees. You bow down before me. You worship me. That's what he bloody well said. That's why the Israelis are still at it, because he allegedly gave them the land. He was God. He divided up the land. He's not God. He's just a being with technology. They are worshipping him. And you can see the result of it even today with what's happening in Gaza. I also mentioned in one of the videos that the Israelis and the Hamas and what's happening on the other side, who are the factions on the other side, there is no difference between the two of them. They're almost coming from the same source. They have the same source who is pulling their strings. They're both the same. They're both tied to something higher. There's no split. There's no difference. They're not to be separated. They can't be separated. They're coming from the one. They're nearly the one entity. The Hamas and all the rest of them who are fighting are the same as the Israelis. They both fell from the same shopping bag. There's no difference between the two of them. Trump has attached himself to that. Like attracts like. And I told you that before. Trump is up to something. I have an idea what it is, but I'll hold my fire until now, for now. Last night I had a strange dream, but I do know I am able to translate the dream. And in this dream, I was in a field, a big field, and there were coffins everywhere. Massive, almost coffins thrown all over the place. And the occupants were walking around. I am aware that is part of the ascension. Jesus said about raising the dead. But it's not going out to the graveyard with your shovel and digging up the dead. It's got nothing to do with that. The dead he was referencing was the people who are asleep. Religion again, the people who are solely stuck in religion are part of the dead. And they're dead. He said, the dead cannot live and the living cannot die. Okay? The dead cannot live unless they're unless they're awakened, awoke. In my dream, the dead were walking around. In other words, they've been awakened. They're awoke. I saw the sun flashing in my dream. And I'm getting a lot of hints like that, that stuff is going to happen very, very soon. It's already happening. It's already happening. This Three-Eye Atlas, it's already behind the sun, I believe. There's another one called Swan. There's no more talk about Swan, but it's still there. And that's going behind the sun as well, but there's no mention of it. And that's far bigger. So the perihelion for the Swan and Three-Eye Atlas is the 29th of this month. Today is the 25th, is it? 26th? Can't remember. So one of the two. So you may feel yourself changing. Stuff that you've been interested in for maybe all your life. You may have been interested in the sport, but you're no longer interested in the sport. People your friends and that you used to be in contact with, you're not in contact with them anymore. They don't interest you. You're kind of pulled away from them. You're alone. You're alone. And if you find yourself alone, well done, you made it. Because that is surely one of the major signs. When you find yourself you're alone, you go away and you find peace and quiet, and you sit there yourself. You might meditate, or you just might enjoy the quietness. That's you. Well done. You're on your way. That's going to happen very soon, and you can feel it. I mean, the energy that's happening now is unbelievable. It's affecting me something really, really fierce. Really, I haven't felt this energy in a long, long, long time. So I think that covers it. No, I don't think there's anything else. And of course, as soon as I shut down, I'll think of something. But well, there you go. You have a nice day. Enjoy what's coming. And catch you on the other side.